In our last tutorial, we made our first program in Java, Hello World. That didn't really put you in a position to do much by yourself afterwards, but the main reason for the tutorial was to show you how to compile and run a program from the command prompt and see that a class file was made. This time, I really should give you the theory behind Java's primitive data types, but I'll wait until our next tutorial with that. Now, I just want to get you started with your own fingers at the keyboard. So in this tutorial, I will show you how to declare a variable and assign it a value. We are going to be working with a primitive data type called int. Int stands for integer and means whole numbers, no fractions and no decimals. Data type, variable name equals starting value. So to declare a variable in Java, all that is needed is the data type followed by the variable name. Now, in our example, we have a variable number 1 that has been declared with a data type of int, and we end it with a semicolon. Now, the semicolon tells the Java compiler that the declaration is complete, and it also tells us that the sentence is complete. Now that it has been declared, the value that we assign it and the values it might receive later on can only be of the type int, whole numbers. Now, before we can start using it, we must give it an initial value. This we call initializing the variable or assigning a value to it. To do this, we use an assignment statement, like math. Now, there's a left side of the equation, which in our example is the variable number 1, and the right side is the value. Int number 1 equals 5. Data type, variable name, starting value. So number 1 has been declared with a data type of int and given the initial value of 5. Since it has been initialized, we can start using it. Let's play around with our variable. Number 1 equals number 1, which is 5, plus 6 plus 4. Now that should give us 15. Number 1 was 5, and the 5 which is stored in the computer is now replaced by 15. And let's now make it a negative number. Minus 20, which would now actually give us number 1 as a value of minus 5. And let's check that. First, let's make this comment, and to get it out on the screen, system out println, and now we have number 1 in here. And we get minus 5. Now, a variable's data type determines the value it may contain and the operations that may be performed on it. Int can hold the numbers minus 2 billion all the way up to 2 billion. So that's a lot of numbers. And there are 7 more primitive data types, and I will give a detailed description of them all in our next tutorial. But just by getting to know one of them first, it might make it easier to grasp the meaning of them later on. And even though we have 8 of them, it's a long time before we're going to be using all of them. Let's declare one more variable. Int number 2 equals 20. And let's use it. Number 2 equals number 2 minus 5, which should make it 15. And let's see if this all works. We'll make one more print, and this time the variable inside the parentheses is number 2. And we have variable 1 as minus 5 and variable 2 as 15. Let's declare our last variable. We'll have int sum equals number 1 plus number 2. And we'll have a printout, and this time the variable sum is here, which indicates number 1 plus number 2. But if we compile the program now, we'll have minus 5 as number 1 and 15 as number 2, but we will get 25 as the sum here, because in Java everything happens in sequence, and right now int sum will take these two numbers here and compile. So we need to put sum here also. Sum equals number 1 plus number 2. Now we can save it. And we see we have minus 5 as variable 1, which is number 1, minus 15 as our variable 2, number 2, and 10 as our variable 3, which is sum. We have given all our variables a starting value here, and the compiler never assigns a default value to an uninitiated local variable. And we know it's local because it's inside our main method here. So if you can't initialize your local variable where it is declared, make sure to assign a value to it before you attempt to use it. Accessing an uninitiated local variable will result in a compile time error.